Hello, we are back. My name's Shay, I'm a nutritionist and an international level athlete, and today we're talking about 5 foods I think everyone should eat more of. So I've picked out 5 that have different things going for them. For me, I really prioritize micronutrient density, ideally not too expensive, and something anyone can really fit into their diet. It's not like sardines. Like, who wants to eat sardines? So let's get into it. So starting off with one of my biggest recommendations, it is quinoa. And you might be thinking, okay, well, maybe it's just because it's a whole grain or whatever. And you know, that has something to do with it, but the main thing is ecdysterone, which is a plant hormone, which is a beta estrogen receptor agonist, which sounds bad if you're a guy, but it's not. Beta estrogen receptors help with a lot of muscle interactions, particularly muscle growth and repair. So it's kind of like a pseudo anabolic type of thing you could be eating. And as a bonus, you get a good source of carbs, some protein in there, and pretty good micronutrient density. So it's a pretty good staple for me. To cook it, rinse it, fry it in olive oil, and then add some water until it absorbs everything like rice does. Now for number 2, I'm not going to tell you 10 different vegetables to eat, but I think if you're going to pick one to add into your diet, it should be spinach. And the first reason, believe it or not, is it also has ecdysterone, like quinoa. Now, it doesn't have it in as high of quantities. I think quinoa is maybe 3 times, depending on the variety. But the best thing spinach has going for it is the micronutrient density. It is stacked with a few things like iron. It's got a little bit of zinc in there, actually. Vitamin K. It has pretty much everything. And ideally, you can just buy frozen, that way it doesn't cost too much, and if you've ever cooked raw spinach, you realize how much you lose, because most of it's water, it just shrivels up. So if you buy frozen, you maintain more of the weight, and it's just way better value for money. If you try a couple brands, I'm sure you'll find one that's more or less tasteless, and you can just shovel that stuff down for like crazy health gains. Next one, regarding cooking oils, I think olive oil is the best way to go. Now, extra virgin does cost a little bit more, and people might not like the intense taste it has, but oftentimes that's the best way to go. If not, just regular olive oil, because unsaturated fats are the better kind of fats. Unsaturated manages your blood lipids better, and you can usually identify them by being liquid at room temperature compared to like butter or animal fat. Some of the anti-inflammatory properties of extra virgin oil, though, it's quite hard to verify how much is actually kept in processing, but your best bet is anything in a darker bottle. But otherwise, regular olive oil is just going to be way better than any other cooking oil you're using, with an honorable mention to coconut oil, because although it's saturated, the chain length is kind of medium as opposed to some of the other things like butter. So despite it being saturated, it's actually a pretty good choice as well. Moving on to number 4, it's also kind of a duo. It's chickpeas and lentils. Now, these are the best on this list for price. Like, you can get a can of these for like $1, and they'll beef up anything you're making. They're versatile, they got protein, micronutrients, fiber. What more could you ask for? If you go down the can aisle in the grocery store, you'll be so surprised with how cheap some of these things are. And I don't like all of these canned things, I will admit, but these are pretty good. So I usually pick a meat, chickpeas and or lentils, some vegetables, and then just throw it on rice or in a wrap. It's a pretty easy way to go. And you'll make a pretty tasty meal that's got good protein, micronutrients, everything you need at a low price, and it's easy to make. And the last one is any live culture fermented foods. Now that doesn't sound too nice, but if you get the live culture yogurts or the kefir, these things are really going to take care of your gut microbiome, and the biggest benefit here is immunity. Think about how much more progress you can make throughout life if you're not getting sick as much. You know, your studies, your work, your training, it's just a lot easier if you're not getting sick. And I recommend this stuff the most around traveling. You really want to try and stack up your gut microbiome before you travel, because it's, a big sickness risk, which can be kind of annoying if you're paying for like a week vacation and you spend the first half sick. It's like, no, just buy a few bottles of these things. So these have been 5 things I really recommend and I keep in my diet. So let me know, what are your staples in the comments. I'll see you next time.